Start the car, and I'll date you. The words were meant to make everyone laugh. But when the powerful CEO said them to a tired single father standing beside an old car, the entire room went silent. What happened next was something nobody expected. The father did not argue. He did not insult her. He simply did one small thing that changed the way everyone in that room saw him forever. And by the end of that day, the CEO would learn that true strength is not measured by money, power, or expensive cars. Sometimes, the richest person in the room is the one with the kindest heart. Before we begin, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment telling us where you are watching from. Your support helps us bring you more inspiring stories about kindness, courage, and the power of the human heart. The morning began with heavy rain in the busy city of New York. People rushed through the streets, holding umbrellas and trying to escape the cold wind. Cars moved slowly through the traffic, and the sidewalks were filled with workers hurrying to their offices. Among them was a man named Daniel. Daniel was 38 years old and worked as a delivery driver. He was a single father raising his 8-year-old daughter, Lily, alone. Life had never been easy for Daniel. After his wife passed away several years earlier, he had promised himself that Lily would never feel alone. He worked long hours, saved every dollar he could, and always tried to smile when his daughter asked if everything was okay. But that morning, Daniel was worried. His old car had stopped working again. He had spent nearly all his savings repairing it the previous month, and now the engine was making a terrible sound. Daniel knew he could not afford another expensive repair. Still, he had an important delivery to make. That delivery was to the headquarters of one of the biggest technology companies in the city. The company belonged to a famous CEO named Victoria Grant. Victoria was known for her success, confidence, and sharp personality. She was young, wealthy, and always surrounded by people who wanted her attention. That morning, she was holding a meeting with her senior executives. Daniel arrived at the building carrying a large package. His clothes were simple. His shoes were wet from the rain, and his old jacket had seen better days. As he walked toward the entrance, his car suddenly made a loud noise. Daniel stopped. The engine died. "Oh no," he whispered. He tried starting the car again. Nothing. He looked at the clock. He was already late. Daniel got out and opened the hood. He stood in the rain, trying to understand what had gone wrong. At that exact moment, Victoria Grant walked out of the building with several executives. She was heading toward her luxury black car when she noticed Daniel struggling with his old vehicle. One of the executives laughed quietly. Victoria looked at Daniel and then at his car. "Is that your car?" she asked. Daniel turned around. "Yes, ma'am." Victoria smiled sarcastically. "Interesting. I thought delivery drivers were supposed to deliver things, not become part of the parking lot." A few people laughed. Daniel lowered his eyes. He was embarrassed, but he stayed calm. "I'm sorry for the trouble. I'll move it as soon as I can." Victoria looked at her expensive watch. "I don't have time for this." Daniel nodded. "I understand." He tried the car one more time. The engine remained silent. Victoria crossed her arms. Then, in front of everyone, she said something that made the people around her laugh even louder. "Tell you what," she said. "Start the car, and I'll date you." Everyone froze. Daniel slowly looked at her. Victoria was clearly joking. She expected him to become embarrassed or angry. Instead, Daniel gave her a small smile. "Thank you," he said. Victoria raised an eyebrow. "For what?" "For reminding me that some people still believe kindness is something to joke about." The laughter disappeared. Daniel closed the hood. He walked toward the building with the package in his hands. Victoria stared after him. She had expected an argument. She had expected anger. She had not expected dignity. Daniel entered the company lobby and walked toward the reception desk. A young woman behind the desk looked at him. Delivery for Ms. Grant, Daniel said. The receptionist pointed toward the elevator. But before Daniel could move, he noticed an elderly security guard sitting nearby. The guard looked pale and tired. Daniel stopped. "Sir, are you okay?" The guard smiled weakly. "I'm fine, son." Daniel looked at the man's lunch sitting untouched beside him. "Did you eat today?" The guard shook his head. "Not yet." Without thinking, Daniel opened his bag. He had packed a sandwich that morning for himself. He handed it to the guard. "Here. Please eat this." The guard looked surprised. "What about you?" "I'll be okay." Daniel smiled. The entire exchange was noticed by Victoria, who had just entered the lobby. She watched silently. The man she had mocked for driving an old car had just given away his only lunch. Victoria suddenly felt uncomfortable. She followed Daniel into the elevator. When they reached the meeting floor, Daniel delivered the package. As he turned to leave, Victoria stopped him. "Wait." Daniel looked back. Victoria walked closer. "I owe you an apology." Daniel said nothing. "I was rude to you," she continued. "I made a joke about your car and your situation. I shouldn't have done that." Daniel nodded. "Thank you for saying that." Victoria looked at him carefully. "Why did you give your lunch to the security guard?" Daniel smiled. "Because he was hungry." "That's all?" Daniel shrugged. "My daughter always tells me something." "What?" Daniel looked down at a small photograph in his wallet. It was a picture of Lily. "She says that when you have enough to share, you should share. Even if what you have isn't much." Victoria looked at the photograph. "Your daughter sounds like a good kid." "She is." Daniel's phone suddenly rang. He answered. It was Lily. "Dad, are you coming home soon?" Daniel smiled. "Yes, sweetheart." "Did you fix the car?" Daniel looked toward the window. Rain continued to fall outside. "Not yet." There was a short silence. Then Lily said, "It's okay, Dad. We can walk." Daniel laughed softly. "I'll figure something out." Victoria heard every word. For the first time in years, she felt ashamed of how easily she had judged someone. She turned toward her assistant. "Call a mechanic." Daniel looked surprised. Victoria continued. "And arrange a taxi for him and his daughter." Daniel quickly shook his head. "No, ma'am. I appreciate it, but I can't accept expensive favors." Victoria smiled. "Then don't think of it as a favor." Daniel looked confused. "Think of it as a thank you." She paused. "For reminding me that money isn't the same as kindness." Daniel smiled. That evening, Victoria visited the small repair shop where Daniel's car had been taken. She discovered that the car needed a major repair. But she also learned something else. Daniel had been working extra hours to pay for Lily's school expenses. He had skipped meals, delayed buying new clothes, and refused to complain. Victoria decided to help, but she did not want to embarrass him. Instead, she offered Daniel a job managing deliveries for her company. The position came with better pay and regular hours. Daniel hesitated. "Why me?" Victoria answered honestly. "Because I watched you give away your lunch when you thought nobody important was watching." Daniel smiled. "Everyone is important." Those 4 words stayed with Victoria. Months passed. Daniel's life slowly changed. He was able to spend more time with Lily. He no longer worried every night about how he would pay the bills. His old car was repaired, but he never forgot the day it stopped working outside Victoria's company. And Victoria changed too. She began visiting the company's workers, listening to their problems, and helping employees who were struggling. One afternoon, she invited Daniel and Lily to a company celebration. Standing before hundreds of employees, Victoria told everyone about the man who had taught her the greatest lesson of her life. She looked at Daniel. "I once thought success meant having the most expensive car in the parking lot," she said. Then she smiled. "But this man taught me that success is having enough kindness in your heart to help someone when you have very little yourself." The room filled with applause. Daniel looked at Lily. She was smiling proudly. Victoria then turned to Daniel. "And for the record," she said with a laugh, "I never did get him to start that old car." Everyone laughed. Daniel smiled. "No," he said. "But you helped me start a new life." The room became quiet. Victoria's eyes filled with tears. And Daniel realized something. Sometimes, kindness begins with one person. One sandwich. One apology. One helping hand. One decision not to judge someone by the car they drive, the clothes they wear, or the money they have. We never truly know what someone else is carrying inside. The person standing quietly beside us may be fighting a battle we cannot see. So be kind. Hold the door open. Share what you have. Say sorry when you are wrong. Help someone who is struggling. And never be afraid to show compassion. Because kindness costs nothing, but it can change everything. And sometimes, the smallest act of kindness can become the beginning of someone's greatest new chapter. So the next time you have a chance to choose between judging someone and helping them, choose kindness. You never know whose life you might change. And one day, you may discover that the kindness you gave to someone else was the greatest gift you ever gave yourself.